Hi everyone, artist Lynn Driscoll here with you. I'm demonstrating a found poetry technique. I've started by underlining some potential words that I like, and this comes from an Emily Dickinson poem. I cut the poems right out of the book. I find that when I'm doing found poetry, generally finding poems or other kinds of literary works that have more figurative language generally get you better results. So I found my few lines I'd like to use, and I've cut them out, and now I'm going to set them aside. So this is Crescent's textured board. It comes in the assorted pack, and it is absolutely fantastic for laying down acrylics or gouache. It's also really great for a number of mixed media techniques like I'll be demonstrating here. So you can layer on it, you can cut it, you can carve it, you can stamp it, all sorts of things. The texture, in this case, there's these sort of circular texture pieces. They work really well if you do dry brushing because you get sort of the bumps involved, and I'll show you that in a little while once I get to adding the details on these birch trees. So here I am, I started by adding some gray birch trees, sort of smaller, which are meant to be further back in the distance. And now I'm going ahead and I'm adding my three birch trees in the foreground that are white instead of gray, adding a few little details here to the branches. And now I'm adding some just plain tacky glue and putting it on the back of the found poetry with my fingers. No reason to get a brush all sticky when we can use our fingers. And I'm laying that down. And you can incorporate found poetry in a lot of different ways. But here what I've decided to do is actually add that found poetry to the trunk. And now I'm going back in, and here's where the Crescent's texture part of the board really makes a difference, because I'm kind of going in and adding different layers, and I can kind of rub my brush along with the paint, and the ridges will get caught with the paint on the nice board, but the divots inside the board will not, and so it turns out to be a really, really fun technique, and I really like this board for that reason. So now I'm mixing up some different colors, and I'm going to use some splatters. And when you splatter paint, especially acrylic, you're going to want to water it down a little bit, and obviously have a surface that you're not too upset if it gets a bit of paint splatters. My own art studio has paint splatters everywhere. So I'm just adding some final visual interest with this piece. The Crescent board makes an absolutely wonderful surface for this kind of work and for many other kinds of mixed media work. So here's the finished piece. You can see how the found poetry actually has become part of the trunk. There's another angle that shows you the texture of this board. Thanks for listening.